All right, gang. Now we're going to do what is really cool, which means use JavaScript to change HTML. Now, the first thing you understand today, or this section of this video, is that JavaScript uses something called dot notation. And dot notation just means it goes from really broad to really specific. And each kind of layer of more specificity, you use a dot. So for instance, if I wanted to reference my phone, which is currently sitting in my right pocket, I would say universe.solsystem.earth.north America, United States, Ohio, Oxford, Arty, right pocket is how you get to it. So you go from really broad to really specific using dots. So what we're going to do is modify this div. And you can see that this div is called first section right here. And so what I'm going to do is select, using JavaScript, this div based on its ID and tell it to change the CSS of this ID. And I'm going to do it inside of this function, which gets called by this event handler. So up here, I'm going to get rid of my donut counter. And I'm going to go from really broad to really specific inside of this function. So really broad, there's nothing more broad in HTML than the document. So go into the entire document and get a specific element out of that document. And which element? The one that has the ID of first section. There's only one. We've talked about how ID has to be, there's only one instance of a given ID in a given page. So there's only one first section in all the world here. Down here is this one's called section. That should be called second section. Oopsie doopsie. But first section here is just this div. And so what I'm going to do is say document.getElementById, and then what I want to do to it, I want to change its style. So dot style, and inside of its style, I want to change its color, and I want to change it to red. You can see I've already done it over here. I forgot to refresh. But if I refresh this page, it's black until I click on the event handler. So until I click on this right here, the onClick will call my first function. My first function will go into the entire document, get a specific element out, the one that's called first section, change its style. What inside the style do I want to change? I want to change the color and set it to red. And so now over here, when I click on hello there, it changes it red. And I can do other stuff with that, so I can make it blue. Refresh, and now it's blue. Very, very cool. And so this is all based on user interaction. Now, changing the color of text isn't very common, but what is common is making things appear and disappear. And so that's style.display and setting display to none. This is exactly the same thing as if you had done this. However, what's cool about this is that it's only going to happen when the user clicks on my first function. So it's not going to happen by default, which is what this would do. And so now, my first function, boop, it will disappear when you click on it. What we want to do, though, is do the thing like that you do in the Wikipedia, where it starts off hidden, and then when you click on it, it magically appears. So we already know how to make things hide at first. That's just using normal old CSS. So let's do that. In fact, I just did it a second ago, which kind of wish I hadn't deleted it. So that's just simply saying first section, display, none. And to make something appear, especially if it's a block level element like a div is, that's called display block. So instead of here, inside of my function, instead of saying style.display equals none, I want display block. Save, refresh. As you see, by default, it's hidden. And then when you click on hello there, it appears. Pretty cool. In fact, we can do this exact same thing down here to make this one appear and disappear. So I'm going to make another function. called my second function. And it does the same thing, only instead of modifying first section div, it'll modify the second section div. Document.get element by ID, second section, change its style, change its display, and set it to block. And that's to make it change when the user clicks on it. We've got to add the event handler so that it will actually run. So down here on the H1, I'm going to say on click my second function. And so now this event handler, when you click on the H1, which is this is another headline, it will run the my second function, which is up here. My second function goes in the document, selects a given ID, which one, second section. What do you want to do with it? I want to change its style. What about the style do you want to change? I want to change its display, and I want to set it to block. Now, by default, it's already set to block. So I also need to go down here in my styles and make it so when the page loads, you don't see that. So I'm going to refresh, save, refresh. And so now when you click on this one, this paragraph appears. And when you click on this one, two paragraphs appear. So go ahead and take this, give it a whirl, and then we'll do a little bit more cool stuff.